I thought you were quite lovely. I still do, darling.
Do you remember the day I arrived?
Of course, darling. It wasn't that long ago, and I'm not senile quite yet. It was in May, wasn't it? Charlie referred you to me, and you were quite at a loss. First day in the city, wasn't it? I remember. You looked like a lost puppy.
Puppy? Me?
When I saw you lugging that suitcase across the bridge, my heart went out to you. I'm glad you came here. You could have been lost anywhere else.
How long have you known Charlie? Well, so we know now that April's been living here since, what did she say? May? Which means that hopefully at some point I can read her diary. Her diary said that she's been keeping it since April. So she's been keeping a diary since a month before she arrived here. She left home very suddenly and brought only one bag with her, and that's what we know so far. So if we were able to read her diary, we might be able to get an account of what was going on in her life previous to coming here and filling in that month gap.
How long have you known Charlie?
Oh, he's one of our oldest tenants. It's close to 3 years, I believe, since he moved in. Charlie is always in a good mood, and he's such a gentleman.
I agree. He's an actual, genuine gentleman.
And you don't see a lot of gentlemen these days, trust me. You have a very good friend in him, darling. Perhaps even more than a friend.
What do you mean, more than a friend?
Not for me to say, darling. If you don't realize it yet, you will.
A little on the dead side, are we, April? Well, that, I think, would be just swell, considering Charlie seemed like a very kind and helpful person in the last game. Next.
What's up with Zach Lee?
Zach? I think we both feel the same way about him, darling. He's not actually a bastard. If he was, I'd have had him out of here in an instant. But he is an arse, and a stuck-up, pompous, arrogant wanker.
Wanker.
My thoughts, exactly. Aside from that wanker bit.
Still, he pays his rent on time, and he doesn't make a lot of noise. He keeps to himself. And most importantly, he's shit scared of me, so I can't just kick him out.
Well, that's it's very smart of him to be shit scared of you. Well, how about you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Tell me a little bit about yourself, Fiona.
Me? Why? It's not much to say, darling. I love my job, I love Venice, and I love being with Mickey. I'm a happy girl. Sure, sometimes I wish I could go back to England to see my family, but that's water under the bridge, so to speak. I'm very happy with myself and my life here in Newport.
How long have you and Mickey... Okay, so we're not in England. She's from England, her specifically. Good to clear that up. I think we're actually in Venice. Yep, says right here, Venice.
How long have you and Mickey been together?
Mickey and I have been together since I was 19. She was in her late 30s then. The older, wiser, worldly woman.
Aha.
I found her sweet and charming and intriguing. When I finally realized she was neither of those things, it was too late. I was in love. She stole me away from my dreary British inner-city life, and she brought me here. She was no knight in shining armour, that's for sure, but she knew how to treat me like a woman.
You
Good
guys
to
make a great couple.
No?
You think so, darling? Yes, I guess we do. And the sex is amazing.
TMI!
You never get tired of talking about your sex life, do you?
Never. And if I ever do, please shoot me.
Maybe a little bit TMI. Who is messaging while I have my busy banner up? So, let's see. Okay, so Mickey is actually a woman. Good to know. Kind of a little bit misleading with the name Mickey. Pretty sure that that's typically a nickname for a boy. Could be mistaken. Well, regardless, can you tell me something about the Border House? The Border House! I was thinking this place looked a little bit familiar. We actually came here as Zoe. I believe that this is actually the exact building that we came here playing Zoe, because there was a TV in this corner, similar to where there is now. There was a sofa right here, and a man was sitting here. We came in through a door that was somewhere around here, off to the right, bottom right, where there was a kitchen, and there was a pizza being made in the kitchen. We had to break in here, and we had to convince this dude who was sitting here that we were there for a legitimate reason. We went upstairs, we found some girl passed out, completely unconscious on a dirty mattress on the floor, and she had some kind of flowery, weird robotic thing on her face, and then we passed by some guy in his boxers. Then we tied some sheets together and rappelled down some windows, and then we crawled into another... Hey, actually, we crawled into a room that looked quite familiar. Maybe it was April's room. I don't remember. I think it actually mentioned it in Dreamfall, if it was April's room or Charlie's room. But in that room, we found a picture. Aha! So I suppose if you had played these two games properly, you know, in order and all, you would have been very nostalgic when you got to that part as Zoe, thinking to yourself, oh, hey, look, it's exactly the same as the first game. Well, I can have that same reminiscent pleasure, only backwards. Just as good.
Can you tell me something about the border house?
That's one of my favourite topics, darling. What precisely do you want to know?
What made you decide to run a boarding house?
That's a long story. One of the reasons Mickey and I got together was that we shared a passion for the classic English country inns. You know, quaint, weathered buildings, funny old ladies, and oddly suggestive names like the Lazy Cock.
So why come here to the big
Wow.
city? To America?
We're in
We
America.
wanted to create a place with a similar atmosphere and hospitality here in Newport. Like a safe house for people like you and I to call home, if only for a short while. So we discussed different options for a few months, and then we decided we wanted to start a boarding house for young, penniless students and artists.
You decided you wanted to do that here in Venice?
We knew that Venice was the place for us long before we came here, but the hard part was finding a building cheap enough.
And this building was available?
Not at first. Like most of the buildings in Venice, this one used to be a factory, but when we first looked at it, a local company was planning to turn it into a bar and nightclub. It was so perfect for our purposes, though, that we appealed to the Venice Borough Council, and after outlining our plans, they gave us the go-ahead at a reduced price, provided we kept our promises regarding our tenants.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Very, very long-winded dialogue here. So, what inspired the name?
What inspired the name Border House?
That came quite naturally when we saw the place. It's on the border between two worlds, isn't it? Between Venice and the city itself. And at the same time, I also believe we're on the border between two more abstract worlds. Between art and spirit on the one hand, and science and technology on the other.
Huh.
That's very poetic, Fiona.
That's very interesting.
I've practiced. I may be an inner city girl, but I can philosophize and bullshit with the best of them.
I'm sure that you can. Do you and Mickey own the place
Do you
together?
and Mickey own the place together?
We own it together, yes, and we've shared the responsibilities between us. Mickey takes care of the maintenance of the building, and I busy myself with the administrative tasks. I also take care of the day-to-day management of our tenants, like deciding whether or not to let someone rent a room. And, of course, the unpleasant business of booting someone out.
I thought you enjoyed that part.
Yes, all right. In some cases I do, but not always. It can get quite messy.
Thanks for the information.
I'm glad I could help you out, darling.
Darling. I would like to say that I'm very, very pleased to see that the same colorful, entertaining characters that we saw in the other game are also in this game as well. Very, very amusing, memorable characters, the things that they say. Really glad to see that that was in this game as well. How about Venice?
What can you tell me about Venice?
I don't really know much about the history of Venice. You should really ask someone with an interest in local affairs. What I do know is that this whole neighbourhood used to be an industrial area, and that about 100 years ago they converted most of the buildings into residences for students and the homeless. And it's a nice place to live, certainly. Friendly people, liberal attitudes, great clothing stores, quite perfect, aside from that dreadful stench from the canals in the summertime.
Ooh, maybe we can get some information on the previous owners of our apartment.
What's the story behind my apartment?
Your apartment? It's more a room than anything else. Not much more than a large closet, really.
It's not that small.
It's one of our smallest rooms, but it's cheap and it's on a nice floor. I hope you're happy there.
I like it. It's convenient, and it's got an interesting view.
That's nice to hear, darling.
Darling.
As for the story behind it, no unexplained deaths or hidden pirate treasures, I'm afraid. Just a long string of students on a tight budget.
Newport. How do you like it?
Do you like Newport?
The city? I stay in Venice most of the time. It's easy to forget we're just a tiny little pocket in the middle of a sprawling urban wasteland. But do I like it? I think Newport is one of the great cities of our age. Love it or hate it, you can't argue with that.
And which one is it? Love or hate?
I haven't decided yet, darling. Ask me again in another 15 years. Perhaps I'll have an answer then.
Alright, well, I think that we've just done as much as we can as far as conversation is concerned right now. Let's go ahead and get to some doing.
I don't have any more questions right now.
Don't hesitate asking if there's something else you want to know.
I'd better get going.
Off to school.
Yeah, there are no more classes this semester, but I have to finish my painting by next Thursday.
For what it's worth, darling, good luck. And don't work too hard, all right?
We won't. I will definitely make sure of that. April, what do you have to say about yourself?
I like my outfit. It's inexpensive, but cool.
Well, good. It's always good to be glad with yourself. We are going to be heading out the front door and into the big wide world, or big wide city at least, of Newport. Next time. See you then.